Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the revamped This Week in Pop Culture. This week, we have comic book news, Hollywood news, tabletop gaming news, Manlet's crying, and Disney will never learn their fucking lesson. This is my week of bounding into comics articles, just a heads up, because it's a lazy ass week. So sit back, put your feet up and relax, and take this nice red pill, because shit's about to get real. The first story of the week involved the comic book industry shitting on legacy characters once again. This time, though, they've managed to include both police and military personnel in their collective bowel movement in some sort of misguided attempt to take things back from the istophobe. I'm sure you've all heard this story by now, but you haven't heard it from me, so take it. In an upcoming Punisher storyline, the Galaxy Brains over at Marvel decided to change the titular character's iconic skull logo to this. Now, it's not so much that they changed the logo, in my own opinion, so much as it is the reasons behind the change. If they didn't have such dumbass reasons behind this change, such as military and police personnel using the skull logo as a sort of icon, this would be nothing more than an annoying blip on the radar. Luckily, we know that this change won't last. Also, Jerry Conway, while I respect what he did in the past, is a moron. The next story is actually a twofer, since I felt like the second story is a sort of piggyback off of the first story for this. So this first story is sort of some fallout from the most recent changes that Wizards of the Coast made to D&D. If you want to know more of my thoughts on this topic, check out last week's rant. The executive producer at Wizards, Ray Winninger, decided to try to walk back all of the bullshit they've been doing over at the world's wokest role-playing game, at least a little bit. In a recent blog post, he argues that the changes were made to help DMs and players in their portrayals by not giving them hard rules about how any races act, either alignment-wise or culturally. However, a player fired back, stating that the guidelines established about the races portrayed actually help players and dungeon masters by giving them a baseline for how these various peoples may act, so that they may build upon that in their own settings if they want to, in other words. All in all, this strikes me as a desperate attempt by Wizards for damage control. However, the damage has already been done to the community. They've already blanketed, basically, every older player and developer as racists, misogynists, and all those other istophobic terms. In other words, they've already lost us. But they don't seem to care about that anyway. Now, as I said, this next story is a piggyback off of the last one, which is Paizo responding to a fan by completely removing all references or rules regarding slavery in their Pathfinder products. A supposedly black fan called them out on specific settings which used the institution of slavery, and citing that recent storylines outlawing slave owning in these settings was not enough, since there was still an underground institution. This person accused Paizo of trying to, quote, have it both ways in this regard. The developer, Marin, decided to drop to his knees and profusely apologize, because that's what we're calling what he's doing these days, gobbling down that apology juice, and stated that Paizo would be removing all references to the subject from its products without any sort of in-game explanation. This person's basic bitch was that there was a rule in the source books that allowed a player to own slaves. Since this person played in the leagues, apparently, there was no real arguments to be entertained when a player wanted to own a slave, because the league plays by the rules as written in the source books, so the only way to really change a ruling and keep a player from owning a slave, which by the rules they could do, would be for if the entire table decided against it or whatever. But because it was in the rules, there was no rule-based reason for them to disallow it, because the leagues play by the rules as written. Now, apparently this made this person uncomfortable. Fair enough. Personally, if that's a thing that's in the setting you're playing in, and I've been Paizo, I'd have made that an optional rule that you can use or disallow, even in league play. I can understand this person's complaint about it. Yet, this person is supposedly an adult and should be capable of being an adult regarding subject matter that may make them uncomfortable, and, being able to reason like an adult as well. This is an institution that has existed throughout the world in history and still exists. These fictional societies are based on our own, so it's going to exist. Pretending something doesn't exist, sanitizing shit, is what adults do for fucking children. Part of the draw of these types of games is being able to take down evils just like this. By sanitizing the product, all Paizo is doing is bending the knee to a child. Now, should players be able to buy people within the rules of the books? Yeah, I could see that being a thing you wouldn't want to do, really. However, someone throwing a fucking tantrum over it? Nah, grow the fuck up, man. Seriously, you're an adult, act like one. If you don't like it, leave the fucking table. Be a grown-up. The next story is that of 3 Spider-Men and their meteoric rise to the top of Hollywood's woke trash heap. The latest numbers and projections, as of this recording, have Spider-Man No Way Home breaking $1 billion at the box office this weekend, in a week. Eternals raked in less than half of that after 49 days. Globally. Many, myself included, hope that this will be something of a wake-up call for Disney specifically, and Hollywood in general. However, we all know that Nero will keep fiddling while the city burns down around him. And the next story is one of salty, salty tears, and I'm totally here to drink that shit up. Recently, Sony announced its Ultimate Box Set of Ghostbusters, which is said to include all the movies. Which it does. It includes Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, and Ghostbusters Afterlife. All the Ghostbusters movies. For some reason, this is making Paul Feig cry, and he put out this tweet. Now, as far as I know, Sony still hasn't responded to Feig, which is just fine. As I said, I see nothing wrong with this box set. All the Ghostbusters films were included in it. I don't get why Feig has an issue with this fact. The final story for the week is about a rag, only useful to wipe the crusted, diseased effluence from the floor of a plague rat's cage, trying to be somehow meaningful and intelligent. I am speaking, of course, of Screen Rant and their assertion that anime and manga have always been political, guys, entirely missing the point of subtlety, nuance, and story, world, and character building that may contain certain political themes. As opposed to, say, a Marvel Voices comic where the Karen writer preaches at you about using Latinx, a racial slur, then calls you a bigot on her Twitter feed when you don't like it. You know, when you don't like using a racial slur, you're the bigot. The response from fans of Japanese media to this, in my opinion, moron's article was nothing less than epic, embodied by this tweet here, which was posted multiple times as a response to the aforementioned shit rag. The roasting that Screen Rant got over this article gives my black soul a bit of hope for the future of humanity. A bit. Well, that's it for this week, folks. Hopefully you're enjoying these shorter pop culture segments. They're actually a lot easier on me personally to produce. However, if you like the longer form weekly breakdown more, don't hesitate to let me know. If you have a comment going either way, or in some completely unforeseen and random direction, just go ahead and use that comment section down below. While you're down there, smash that like button and crush that red subscribe button if you haven't already. Eyeballs and ear holes are always appreciated, and I thank you. I'll see you all tomorrow for my rant. Hopefully. I haven't found anything yet that pisses me off enough, so we'll see. Anyway, I'll see you all when I see you. And Merry Christmas, Happy Yule, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays in general. Thank you again. Lates.